I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. We are starting the podcast a little bit earlier than we initially scheduled it since the game was over and just got done watching the Pistons post-game show on FanDuel. I wanted to get into our post-game show and kind of go over these quarter notes, go over the box score, team stats, and then we'll open up the show to any comments and questions. If you're watching live on YouTube, we appreciate you listening on YouTube and listening on the audio say later on. Start this game, there was no Kate Cunningham, no Karis LeVert. Both of them were dealing with the illness, and the Pistons have kind of had like a little bug in their locker room. Started with Isaiah Stewart last week. Rod was questionable this week in a game. So no Cade, no LeVert. Broadcast also did mention on top of Cade dealing with an illness, he's also dealing with a hip injury, which I don't know where that came from. It may have happened against Boston. We'll have to kind of get more details as we get closer to Friday when the Pistons play the Houston Rockets. But start the game, you had your usual starters, and Danish Jenkins was inserted as the starting point guard. I thought this game was over within the first 3 minutes. Pistons go on a 13-0 run. I'm like, okay, I don't think the Pelicans are ready to play today. And I was completely wrong to have that assumption after it was 13-0 after the 9:29 mark in the first quarter. The Pelicans take a timeout and they kind of woke up. They got more aggressive, and they were able to just kind of stay within this game. Never really felt like it was out of reach, even though the Pistons were, it seems like, up anywhere from like 5 to 9 points for a majority of this game. We made a lot of turnovers, and I kind of expected that with no Cade Cunningham um, handling the ball. But there was balanced scoring in this first quarter. Three players scored 6 points. The Pistons did have to settle for a 4-point lead after 12 minutes of action, 34-30. Going into the second quarter, I felt like they played with a little bit more intention. The energy was up. They were scoring a little bit more. Took care of the basketball a little bit better in the second quarter, but it was still kind of just making just really sloppy passes. I thought just all night, I just felt like the flow of the game was just off for this team. Probably one of the more ugly wins, but good teams find a way to win basketball games, and I think we can say that confidently with the Detroit Pistons. Duran and Asar carried the Pistons scoring in the first half. Each had 10 points. So the Pistons had to settle for a 6-point lead going into halftime, 68-62. Coming out of halftime, started the third really sloppy, still made some really questionable passes. Thank God for Duncan Robinson. He really stepped up. He was looking to get more touches, obviously, with no Cade out there. Jalen Duren took advantage of mismatches with their bigs in the front court. I felt like Jalen Duren was a very steady player for the Pistons in this one. I really want to credit New Orleans. This is a team that I think we all understand. Like, we can talk about them being the number one seed. We can talk about them um, being the best team in the East. But I have to credit New Orleans for not letting the Pistons just run up and down the floor. They really forced the Pistons in the half court. And I felt like a lot of times there are possessions where they just don't score for a good 3 to 4 minutes. New Orleans did a good job of forcing the Pistons in half court sets, but they were still able to end the third with a 5-point lead. 89-84 was the final score after 3 quarters of play. And, going into the fourth, Ron Holland right away helped the Pistons, get back up to a 10-point lead. He had 2 big baskets. And then you just had contributions from Javonte Green, Duncan hitting some threes, Jalen Duren taking advantage, Asar Thompson making some great defensive plays. I thought defensively tonight he was amazing, fantastic on that end as always. But really felt like this was going to be a Micah Peavy legacy game. Probably a guy that you've probably never heard of until tonight. I mean, he was just everywhere. He was just a pest, grabbing loose balls, scoring. Like he's not a guy that is really known for his scoring. He's more of just an energy guy, but Pistons win this one 112 to 104, get their fourth straight win, and they get to host the Houston Rockets this Friday at LCA. That will be the Detroit Pistons' first Amazon Prime game, so it will not be on FanDuel. It will be on Amazon Prime. So if you guys do not have an Amazon Prime subscription, definitely probably will want to get one, because I have tried to watch games on streaming sites, illegal streaming sites, I should say, and it's tough, man. They buffer every 20 to 30 seconds. It's really hard to watch those games. So I'm pretty sure they probably have a free trial. If you just want to sign up for Amazon Prime account, you'll be able to watch this Pistons game against the Houston Rockets. They're calling it rivalry week, which I don't really feel like Houston's a rival. I feel like it's more of like a fan rivalry. And like now you have like twins and brothers with the men and the Sar. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys feel like it is a Pistons rivalry. I do want to get into the box score with this one. We'll kind of take a look at it with the Pistons in this one. So Tobias Harris in 31 minutes had 10 points tonight, 4 out of 13 from the field, 2 out of 6 from three, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers. He was a +8. Duncan Robinson in 29 minutes in his start, 15 points, 5 out of 11 from the field, 4 out of 9 from three, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 1 steal, 1 block. I will say there was a possession where he clearly got fouled by Derek Queen tonight, and he just stopped midway just to stare the ref down, which I thought was actually kind of funny that he just did that, but really uncharacteristic by him to actually do that. But getting back into the box score, Jalen Duren in 30 minutes had 20 points, 7 out of 11 from the field, 6 for 6, perfect from the free throw line, 15 big rebounds by JD, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He was a +13 in this one. Love to see him step up when Cade Cunningham is not out there. Sar Thompson in 28 minutes had a better scoring game, 12 points, 5 out of 10 from the field, perfect from the free throw line, 2 for 2, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. He was a +12. I want to say something about Sar Thompson's free throws. It looks like he changed his mechanics with his shot. It looks completely different, and he made both of his free throws. So, whatever he changed, I think it looks good. I mean, if you can get a Sar Thompson's free throw percentage to get up into like the mid 60s, maybe close to 70, I think that would be a win in itself. But I did notice his free throw form tonight was a little bit different than we've seen the first 40 games of the season. So something to pay attention to and monitor. Danis Jenkins in his start with the Pistons had 17 points, 5 out of 12 from the field, 2 out of 6 from three, 5 for 7 from the free throw line, 1 rebound, 4 assists, 5 turnovers, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He was a +5. For you guys that are keeping track or wondering, Danis Jenkins has 8 games remaining on his 2-way contract until the Detroit Pistons have to convert him so he could stay on the active roster. So 8 more games until Danis Jenkins' 2-way is expired. Isaiah Stewart off the bench, 24 minutes, 8 points, 3 out of 7 from the field, 1 for 4 from three. Perfect from the free throw line, made 1 free throw, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 2 blocks. He's a -9 in the plus-minus. Ron Holland, 6 points, 2 out of 4 from the field, 1 for 1 from three, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. He was a -1. Javonte Green in 14 minutes off the bench as well. 8 points, 3 out of 4 from the field, 2 out of 3 from three, 2 rebounds, 1 turnover, 3 steals, 1 block. I feel like the guy is just a steal machine. Like, he just gets steal after steal after steal. Pretty sure him and Ron Holland are some of the best off the bench in terms of just forcing steals and forcing turnovers. Really sneaky addition by Trajan Langdon. I know we've talked about that multiple times on the podcast. Marcus Sasser got some clock tonight. 21 minutes, had 9 points, didn't shoot it too well. 3 out of 11 from the field, 1 for 5 from three. Made both of his free throws. He was 2 for 2, 1 rebound, 4 assists. And Jaden Ivey, 18 minutes off the bench, had 7 points, 2 out of 5 from the field, 2 out of 5 from three, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 3 turnovers. He was a -7. And Paul Reed was a do not play coach's decision, which I was kind of surprised by, given we did have some little bit early foul trouble with their bigs, but hey, it's JB's decision not to play Paul Reed, and it's kind of a wild when we kind of talk about rotations because last game JB only played 9 guys. Tonight he played way more than 9 guys, so I thought it was a trend where he was gonna try to go like 9-10 deep. Looks like that was just a Boston thing. Going into the team stats with this one, Pistons shot 44% from the field. New Orleans shot 42%. One of their better three-point shooting games. They made 15 out of 39, 38%. New Orleans shot 22%. Free throws, they were 19 out of 24, almost 80%, 79% for the night. 47 rebounds to 46 for New Orleans. The Pistons were able to generate 26 assists, 12 steals, 8 blocks, 20 turnovers. I really felt like this game, if they would have taken better care of the basketball and weren't so sloppy with passes, this game wouldn't have been as close as it possibly was, because this game wasn't really decided until like the final minutes in the fourth quarter. I would say like around the 4-minute mark where I really felt like it was kind of out of reach. New Orleans just ran out of gas, but that is something to kind of monitor there. Pistons were able to generate 36 fast break points, 48 points in the paint, and their largest lead was 13 points, and believe it or not, that was within the first 3 minutes of the game. But just kind of just looking at the team stats and everything like that. But I do want to get into just the Q&A. Avery Whiteside said Levert had 0 turnovers tonight. Yeah, I didn't play. So there's definitely that. I do see a couple of questions in the live chat if you guys are watching right now. Marquez says Special K said it best tonight. Jenkins has 6 games with at least 15 points and 3 games with 20. He's definitely not going back to the G League. No, I don't think so either. I think the Pistons' plan for Danis is to let that two-way expire, get him to a standard contract, and I expect his next contract with the Pistons to be a multiple year contract, get him under contract for a couple of years, and you have a rotational guard that we've seen start tonight. We've seen him play shooting guard when Duncan Robinson has been out. We've seen him play in a bunch of different types of roles with JB Bickerstaff. I fully expect Danis Jenkins to get converted to a standard NBA contract, and it does kind of open up the conversation because the Pistons would have an open two-way spot, and like who would get that third two-way spot? I have my assumptions who I think would get the two-way spot. I think it's another guard. I can't think of his name right now. It's gonna bug me. I thought of it earlier. Michigan State guard right now that is playing for the Crews. Jaden Atkins, that's who it is. I think Jaden Atkins will probably get the two-way, a new two-way by the Detroit Pistons. I think you have to reward his play. He's just playing out of his damn mind. Like, you didn't really see that type of scoring at Michigan State the way he's scoring right now in the G League for the Crews. But you could have Jaden Atkins, Wendell Moore, and Tolu Smith as your 3 two-way contracts for the Detroit Pistons. But yeah, I don't really expect him to ever play in the G League unless it's like a rehab situation. But yeah, I'm happy for him. Really happy for him. Really good story this year. Derek Brown. Okay, Derek, I love you, my guy. You did this last podcast. You asked me who's more valuable, Rano or Sar. Now you're asking me who's more valuable to this team, Duncan Robinson or Isaiah Stewart. Oh man, you put me on the spot every podcast, man. I'm gonna say Stu, just because I think it's a little bit harder to find the rim protector that he is. And just being a glue guy, an energy guy off the bench. I think Duncan Robinson is having an incredible season. I don't want to take anything away from him, like whatsoever. But I do believe that when you kind of look at Duncan Robinson's archetype, it's easy to find three-point shooters. I don't know if you could find the caliber of three-point shooter of him just, like, curling off screens and off the catch and stuff like that, but I think it would be much harder to find a guy like an Isaiah Stewart who protects the rim at an elite level, like he does. But Derek, man, I swear, man, you give me another one of those questions, I might not answer. You put me on the spot every every post-game podcast. Got a comment from Piston Sicko. The solution to the Pistons spacing problem might be buried on their bench. It could be Chaz Lanier. It could be Marcus Sasser. It could be Jaden Ivey. My opinion on it, Piston Sicko, and it's just my opinion. You guys might not share the same opinion. I honestly believe, like, I don't think the spacing problem is on the team right now. I think they will definitely address more perimeter shooters and playmakers at this deadline. I think you have to. You saw it tonight. Like, they really struggled to generate anything out of the half court. And obviously, Cade Cunningham not being in there kind of shows you what this team looks like without Cade. But even with Cade, the Pistons right now rank 19th in the NBA in half court offense. As we get closer to the playoffs and as we get closer to have those conversations about like how far we want to see the Pistons go in the playoffs, it becomes a half court game. And they're one of the teams that doesn't really generate a lot of offense out of the half court. They look to run up and down the court, fast break opportunities, uh, lob connections, living in the paint, driving to the paint. They do really struggle to generate half court looks, and I think tonight you saw it 100%. Jaden Ivey still looks off. I think he's still battling his injuries. Honestly, like, coming back from a broken leg, I think is going to take him a little bit of time. I know I've said, give him a little bit more grace, give him a little bit more time. But I know a lot of Pistons fans kind of look at the contract situation, kind of look at the trading deadline, and um, it's not really his fault, just the type of like bad luck and injuries and coaching decisions that he's kind of dealt with. But some nights when he's making shots, like I thought in the Boston game, the shot looked good, but I think he is still struggling to blow by opposing defenders. I don't really think the speed's there right now. It might take him a full calendar year just to get his speed back, but I think the $1 million question right now is like, what are the Pistons' long-term plans with Jaden Ivey? I particularly don't know. I don't know if they're cool with him just being a sixth man off the bench, or if they might explore, at least entertaining some type of conversation with trades over the next couple of weeks. So we'll have to wait and see as we get closer to that February 5th deadline. But again, like, I think you got to be a little bit patient with Jaden Ivey. There's been flashes of him that he's had really good games. Like I go back to the New York Knicks game where I really felt like that was probably one of his better games of the season, coming off the bench, scoring, playing great defense. But it's just a process. Like, you just have to stack good days and kind of just collect your data that way if you are a Piston fan. The Pelicans really have no need to hold on some of these good players. Eventually, they're going to have to blow this team up. Antonio, I 100% agree. I mean, when you look at the Pelicans right now, they have 10 wins. That is a team that is expensive. That it's a team that I think is trending towards a rebuild. I think it just really depends on like when are they going to pull the trigger. I like their draft picks this year in Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen. Obviously, they don't have a draft pick this year because they traded the Pacers pick back to them during the NBA Finals, and that's going to be a top 5 lottery pick. I'm sure they'd like to have that back. And then the trade up to get a Derek Queen, Atlanta has their pick, so they will have no 2026 first round pick as of right now. That could change. I know they've kind of signaled that they're not really too interested in moving on from Trey Murphy unless they get a Desmond Bane type of offer for him, which would be multiple first round picks and a young player. Herb Jones is another guy that I think the Lakers have, been keeping an eye on as well. Even Zion to an extent. I'm sure if they got a good offer for Zion, they'd be more than willing to move him. But I mean, you just kind of look at their core. I think it's trending more towards the younger side. I mean, even a guy like a Jordan Poole, which he started the season and now he's coming off the bench. He had a terrible shooting night. That didn't look like the Jordan Poole I know. Seemed like he was just really off tonight. But I think for the Pelicans, it's just when they want to rebuild. When do they want to solve the young guys? And I feel like right now their mindset is we have guys on good contracts. If you want them, you're going to have to pay for them. And I don't think a lot of teams around the NBA right now want to fork up 3, 4 first round picks for a guy like a Trey Murphy or 2 first round picks for a Herb Jones. And both of those players are an incredibly cheap team friendly contracts. Like a player like Trey Murphy is only on a $25 million deal, and the productivity you get from him. Obviously, tonight he did not have a good shooting night whatsoever, but that had to do with the Sar Thompson just locking him up and having him in jail. But Trey Murphy is a very good player. He's a player that we've talked about multiple times on the podcast as a possible trade target. There was mentioned last podcast we had last weekend from Clutch Points. Brett Siegel said, keep an eye on Trajan if the Pistons do change their mind on their approach this deadline. He had draft Trey Murphy while he was in New Orleans, and is probably one of his better draft picks. And I think he would fit on this team like a glove, but I don't know if the Pistons are really in the mindset of giving up multiple first round picks for the guy, like 4 first round picks for him. I'm not really entirely sure. I don't know. I know some of you guys would, because the way that we would value those picks would be like in the late 20s. Like right now, our first round pick is currently sitting at 29. That's not really too valuable. You do kind of get like cost and contract control, because it would be like a really cheap, a couple $1 million deal, and you would have the rights for a few years. But if you want to make this team better, you're gonna have to fork up some first round picks. Don't really know if it's gonna be Trey Murphy, but 100% agree with you, Antonio. I think eventually they will have to, trade those guys like a Trey Murphy, a Herb Jones, even a Jordan Poole, for an example, DeJounte Murray. Like, they're trying to do two things at once. Like they're trying to have a young core, but in the same breath, they're trying to compete. And I don't really think those two things can coexist. You either are 100% committed to the rebuild, or you kind of half-ass it. And we've seen the Pistons do that in previous years, where they're half-assing it and getting the 8th pick. Don't think New Orleans wants to be in that position, but I do appreciate the question. I know I rambled on for a little bit, and before we kind of get into the rest of this Q&A podcast with you guys, going into this game, like when I was looking at the odds, Pistons were a 9.5-point favorite. Obviously, they do win this one by 8. I honestly thought this was going to be a blowout. I honestly thought, even without Cade Cunningham, I thought this was going to be a good 15 to 20-point blowout, but it was only an 8-point game. And I guess you have to kind of credit the Pelicans. They play hard. They play hard. They don't know how to win games. And it kind of reminds me of the Pistons a few years ago when they were coached under Monty Williams. Like, they weren't a 14 team. I felt like they could have won more than 14 games. I'll just say that. They were in a lot of games. Pelicans kind of remind me of that, where like they have the talent. They just need some vets to teach them how to win games. The vets that they have obviously aren't really doing that, but I think New Orleans will be okay. It just kind of depends, like if they're just going to sell off on everybody, they're going to do a soft two rebuild, maybe sell off on one vet, but hey, it'll be interesting to see what happens down in New Orleans. Get into a couple more questions with you guys, and then we'll probably wrap up this podcast. Antonio says same thing goes for Brooklyn with Michael Porter Jr. and that team. Yeah, the Michael Porter Jr. conversation is a little different, I think, just because like you hear a lot of intel that does leak out from Brooklyn. Like in one breath, I think they obviously want to be competitive, but in losses, like have competitive losses. And Michael Porter Jr. is a player I feel that can help a lot of contending teams right now. They can help, the Warriors. I know they were kind of like sniffing around there. Even though they said there wasn't any reports, next day there were reports that they're actually interested. I know the Pistons have been mentioned. Keep an eye on the situation there, but I think the Michael Porter Jr. conversation is a little different just because I think Brooklyn is kind of weighing their options too. Like they're thinking, maybe we can trade him for a couple late first round picks and an expiring salary and maybe a young piece, or we can kind of keep him on this roster and maybe we have conversations this summer. If I had to guess, I think Brooklyn doesn't trade him. I think Brooklyn right now, they're not really in love with a lot of the offers that they're getting, and that could change, obviously. We're only the 21st of January as we're recording this podcast. But as of right now, I just don't really feel like they're going to trade him. I think they should if they want to, value, finishing in the, top five in lottery odds. We've seen this team win games. Obviously, they just got obliterated tonight by the New York Knicks. Biggest win by the Knicks in franchise history. They needed a get right game, if you ask me, because the Knicks were kind of struggling. But hey, you love to see it, right? As a Piston fan, you love to see it. But getting back to the Michael Porter Jr. conversation, I think as of right now, I just can't see Brooklyn really selling off on him because I don't really think they're in love with the offers that they've probably got on the phone so far. But that could change as you get closer to the deadline. I know a lot of Pistons fans have mentioned him as a piece that they could go out and get. I've seen trade packages of like Tobias, Levert in a first. I've seen packages like Tobias, Ivy in a first. Don't really know if Brooklyn is like too crazy about like a late first round pick and an expiring Tobias Harris and a Karis LeVert, who they've already drafted. They've already kind of had that Karis LeVert experience. But he was a much better player in Brooklyn than he is right now in Detroit when he was younger, over 10 years ago. And the same thing could kind of be said with Jaden Ivey. I'm not really entirely sure if they would want a Jaden Ivey personally, just because when you look at their team, they do have a lot of guards. I've always been of the opinion, and I'll keep repeating this. Like, I think if Brooklyn would look at the Pistons, they probably look at forwards, right? They probably look at forwards. I don't really think that they look at it like a Jaden Ivey or even like you could like mention a Marcus Sasser and say, like, yeah, give us that in a trade. But it'll be interesting to see. I know as we do get closer to this trading deadline, there'll be more conversations. Things will heat up 100%. Hopefully this summer, Jalen Duren develops more of a low post game to help out our half court offense. Not to mention, JB needs to practice a half court offense with this team, especially in the playoffs. I agree, Antonio. I know Jalen Duren does work out with Rasheed Wallace in the offseason. He has developed a little bit of a low post game, but I get what you're saying. Like, if you can develop a good 12, 15-foot jump shot, develop some kind of go-to move in the post, I think it would help out the Pistons a ton in half court sets because you can just, pass the ball down to Jalen Duren a good like 8 to 10 feet away from the basket. I think that's something that he'll continue to develop. And I think when we kind of talk about Jalen Duren in the future, we'll probably talk about him being more of a consistent threat in the low post. I think it's still something that he's still kind of looking to develop. But I do agree with the half court sets. I think that's something that you need to get better at. I'm sure JB and the Pistons coaching staff do work on stuff like that in practice, but right now, I think your go-to scorer in a half court set is obviously Duncan Robinson. Jalen Duren does help if you do kind of have mismatches when they kind of just blitz you on a pick and roll and they have to send another body and maybe you kind of have that. But that's why I've always kind of been into the mindset and the opinion of trying to address more playmakers and three-point shooters at this deadline. I have a couple comments about Michael Porter Jr. I know we just talked about him. And it says that it's a dumpster fire for Michael Porter Jr. They're kind of rebuilding, but I don't really think they're a dumpster fire. Also go on to say he's a champ. He doesn't deserve to be on a team like that. Honestly, he needs to be with a contender. He has experience in the playoffs. I know that's like some fan speak. Obviously, like you'd like to see Michael Porter Jr. like be on more of a contending team, and I get it. I get it, Coach Sterling. I just think right now where Brooklyn is at, that's their best player. They're not going to sell off him cheaply. I mean, he's playing the best ball of his career. I honestly think they could get a pretty good haul for him if teams are willing to pay. And they're gonna ask a lot. Like I honestly think they can get 2 first round picks for him. Like I think that's his value. I think they can get 2 first and a young player, 100%. Maybe you match salaries with a bigger contract, but definitely could see him getting dealt for a pretty good package. I just don't really think they're going to bite at any offers that they're getting right now. But that's just me. I could be wrong. Jenkins started over Ivy, says a lot. Well, in Ivy's other 2 starts, I would say it just wasn't really there. I think Jenkins has shown the ability to be a little bit more under control as of right now and set up his teammates and get his. Not to say that Ivy isn't capable of starting. He did start in 2 games, I believe, last week or 2 weeks ago when Cade was out with that hip. I think it was 2 weeks ago. He just didn't really look too comfortable. He's looked actually pretty comfortable off the bench, and that could just be his role for this season is kind of just a 6 man off the bench. And I would completely be fine with that because I feel like he's had games off the bench where he's contributed to winning basketball games. But I'm probably going to wrap up this podcast. You guys have been on for around 30 minutes or so, but I do appreciate you guys. We'll have another post-game podcast for the Houston Rockets game on Friday. We'll do our weekend podcast on Saturday, and then we'll do another post-game podcast against the Kings this Sunday, which is an early weekend game. So it'll be an early post-game podcast, but I do appreciate all of you guys listening and watching after another Detroit Pistons win. That makes it 4 straight, you guys. Can they make it 5 straight? 112-104 was the final score. Again, appreciate you guys as always. Take care. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.